Hello everyone, a very good afternoon to all of you. I am Priyanshi, welcoming you all on behalf of Solar Quarter and First View Group to our virtual conference on PV mounting tech, structure and tracker technology forum, ASEAN region. I hope you had a good time in networking with your peers today. We'll have those networking sessions after the panel discussions as well. So we'll be playing our sponsor video of our platinum partners, Arctech and Stoller. Requesting my team to play with the video. Thank you so much, team, for playing the videos. Now it's time to start with the conference, but before that, I take the pleasure to thank our partners for extending their immense support to organize this event. Our platinum partners, Arctech and Stroller. Now, let me quickly take you through today's agenda. We will be having two sessions today. Our first session will be on structural engineering trend and latest advancement in tracker-based mounting structures for utility and floating solar projects. And after that, in a second session, you'll hear our experts discuss structural engineering trends and new age mounting technologies for the rooftop solar projects. Now, without any further ado, let's begin with the first session, and it will be starting with a sponsor presentation by Miss Bella from Arctech. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Hello everyone. Let me just share my presentation firstly.
Sure, ma'am.
Can you guys see it?
Yes, we can see it, ma'am. You can proceed.
Okay. So I am Bella Zul from Arctic. I'm based in KL, Malaysia. Today I will make a brief presentation of who is Arctic and what we are doing, especially in this region. Arctic company was established in the year of 2009, and we are based in Kunshan, China, which is just nearby Shanghai, if for those who don't know this location. And till end of last year, we have accumulated installation globally for over 37 gigawatts. That's to around over 40 countries. And looking at this history and milestone map, basically ever since its establishment, Arctic focused themselves on the development and the service of structure category. And we spent a lot of resources, energy on the R&D renovation, especially of tracker. And we successfully made ourselves among the top list globally for the tracker supplier. And we are the only one from Asia to be ranked top 4 over the years for the tracker supplier. And the company is also publicly listed since the year of 2020. Last year number, I think not official yet, but for 2020, the company took around 35 market share in APAC region. That's how the clients, the market acknowledge Arctic as a reliable and a suitable supplier in the category. Here is a bit example of our global presence. You can see basically there are service center office, representative office in all the major markets. And we have been putting a lot of focus on the development of technology and pushing new generation to the market and help the market to grow to achieve lower cost and better return of investment. So now we have own over 240 patents and still increasing. Here's some example of like what we are saying. Arctic, we are taking the leading role in the industry. We are the pioneer. But how? Here is an example. There are wind tunnel tests, which is very essential in the design and in all the simulation process of the tracker, especially tracker category. And among all those suppliers globally, Arctic is the only one who can reach the highest level of test and simulation. Furthermore, we are also the very first and the only one to own its own wind tunnel test laboratory. And this also largely shows how much we are focusing on this technology investment and how much we are leading other players. Here's some idea on our manufacturing basis. Now we have several, and except for the one in Changzhou, and since last year we have a new manufacturing base in Anhui province. So now the capacity is even doubled from previous. Some idea of how we are doing in this region. You can see traditionally still the largest market we have is Vietnam, Australia, but because of political reason, they don't have a very good policy since last year. So now it's like it's more distributed. Like in Malaysia, we have installed around 200 as fixed projects, and now we have a new tracker project of 116 megawatts under instruction. But it will be finishing around next month. I will have more slides to explain this later on. Here I will give some basic idea on like a tracker and fixed structure. What are the choices and what's the mainstream? Okay, so we are famous. We are known for one of the best supplier for tracker, but we are not only doing tracker. We are still one of the top and major supplier for fixed structure in the world. And actually, it takes much more percentage. But sometimes some clients have some misunderstanding, thinking Arctic only do tracker. No, we do both. We do everything. For fixed structure, it's actually taking around 60 or 70% of all the shipments we have done. And besides the tracker and the fixed structure, we also do BIPV. Then speaking of which, some, if they are not very familiar of the details, then they would ask, what's the difference? We would say, okay, fixed structure by the literal meaning is fixed, no adjustment. And actually we have another adjustable fixed type structure. This is not for Southeast Asia region. This is more for the high latitude region because the solar radiation angle changes bigly from different seasons. So they adjust a few times during a year. Then we have the tracking system. But how do they work? You can see from this sample, from the early morning when the sun rises up, the system would control the module, to control the panel, to track and follow the sun, to place the module at the most ideal angle to observe the solar radiation, hence to generate more power. Like here, in the red area is what you can get normally in a fixed system, and the dotted line area are the extra power that can be generated from a tracker system, because, as I say, they are starting to tracking the solar when it's like in the early morning and in the later afternoon, which is traditionally non-peak hours. They are making like more efficient and try to make also the power supply to be more stable. Hence, we are increasing the output, we are reducing the LCOE, and we are maximizing the payback of project. So in general, in this region, for our Malaysia, as if to do bifacial module and plus tracker, generally it would give around 20 to 30% of extra energy with the same installation. So this is very essential, especially as nowadays the module price is going up and very unstable. Then we can save some DC installation. We can use tracker. We are installing less module. We are paying less labor hour, but we are achieving the same power output. I think that's very some aspect that the developers, the owners should look into when they are planning their project at current condition, while the cost is roaming, but the maybe tariff is not so high and even very competitive on their PPA tender, where we can use tracker plus bifacial to increase the power output and create best LCOE. And mainstream, what tracker solution we have? This is, you can see from here, it's two piece of module in portrait. We call it Sky Smart Tube, and it's using multi-point drive. And another one, this is one piece of module in portrait. It's Skyline. And okay, here more technical. I won't go too detailed, but those who are interested, you can contact me afterwards. But so generally, what's the difference? Okay, the 2P Sky Smart Tube is shorter, and the post is longer, and the other one, okay, it's longer and post is shorter. They are designed for different conditions, and we would make relevant recommendation after studying the project condition. And here we are talking about the fixed structure, still the mainstream in utility solar farm projects. We have a single post, dual post. Now because the module is getting bigger and bigger, so mostly everyone is using dual post. And it can be used in even larger terrain slope, in bigger wind speed area, in all kinds of situations. It's the most easy and convenient and fast for construction. Looking into more aspects, what kind of foundation posts there are, we have all like concrete with pile insert into ground, concrete with flange, ramming pile, steel pile. But now for Southeast Asia region, except for I think some Philippines, they have higher wind speed, maybe using H profile mostly, C profile, and steel pile if the land is flat and allows. Maybe concrete if the soil is poor and the civil calculation requires, maybe some projects going with concrete with pile insert into ground. This will be according to the exact situation. And this is what I said before, what we are doing in Malaysia currently. This project is in the large-scale solar farm phase 3. You can see from the map here, it's very close to sea, actually 300 meters from the coast. So according to the condition, we giving design of 2P Sky Smart Tube, and the DC capacity is 116 megawatt. I think this is quite typical for those who are having a site near to sea and maybe a bit sandy soil condition. For those who have more question, you can contact me afterwards. I think my time is limited. There are some fixed projects purpose for during large scale phase 1 and 2. Some more. Okay, here is my contact. For those interested, you can maybe screen capture and save it. That's my sharing today. And for those who have a case under planning or have any other questions, you can just reach out after this webinar.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this insightful presentation. Now it's time for us to begin with the first panel discussion, which is on the structural engineering trends and latest advancements in the tracker-based mounting structures for utility and floating solar projects. And to discuss this, we have in our panel with us Mr. KK Kong from Mako Solar, Mr. Moin Yosef from Beva Ari, Ms. Bella Zhu from Arctech, Mr. Lei Liang Wei from Sanseep Group, Mr. Weber Sahu from Sun Energy. The session will be led by KK Kong, sir. So now I welcome all the panelists on the screen and I hand it over to Kong, sir. Sir, please take it ahead.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this exciting PV mounting tech first panel discussion. So here, a little bit about myself. I'm the CEO and Managing Director of Mako Engineering Malaysia. So, and I'd like to welcome our panelists here. So we have panelists Bella, okay, from Artec, one of the well-known is a mounting structure manufacturer in our part of the world. And then Mr. Li Liang Wei, hi, from one of the largest this EPC and also asset owner in Asia. Okay, welcome. And Mr. Sahu, okay, the COO of Sun Energy. Welcome. And of course, last but not least, Mr. Moin, the team leader of Bewa, Thailand. Okay, so probably you can take a minute or two to introduce yourself, your expertise, and about your companies. Start from Bella without introduce. You already have mentioned that. Probably the other three panelists. Yeah, go ahead. Moin, maybe start from you.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Kong. Hi, everyone. I am Moin Yusuf. I'm the team lead for Biwari's engineering based out of Bangkok. And I've been working with Biwari for 6 years now, based out of Thailand the whole time, and worked on a couple of projects successfully in Malaysia for dialysis farms, in Thailand for some CNI and floating PV, and a few hundred megawatt of tracking projects in Australia, and also some recently completed projects in Korea and Japan. So we're quite active in the region, and happy to be here and share some of my limited insights with everyone today. Thank you. Pass it on to Mr. Lei Liang Wei.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Liang Wei. So I'm from Sunset Energy Malaysia. So a little bit his introduction about Sunset Energy Malaysia. We are actually developer, and also we are mainly focusing on developing a solar project, let it be CNI or LSS large scale kind of project. So we are we have a team which is newly developed, but out of our members, we are very experienced, and then we have involved in this solar field in Malaysia for the past like 10 to 20 years. Yeah. So yeah, and also I'm happy to join for today discussion to share some of my view on some certain issues. Yeah, some point. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you for having me here. I'm Sahu, working with Sun Energy. Sun Energy is a developer as well as acting as a main EPC for CNI projects as well as utility scale solar projects here in Jakarta. We have a few assets working in Thailand as well as western part of Australia. So happy to share my insight on ground-mounted solar projects, whether includes tracker system or not. But yes, I think we can all have a knowledge sharing session, which can help us concluding with which is more optimized design. I had a very good discussion with Moin few years back on the tracker system, and let us make this forum more knowledge sharing based, and so we have something to take away and implement in our future projects. Thank you everyone.
Okay, good. We have a very quite a mix of experience over the region here, the experts. Let me pose interesting questions to the floor and see who would like to pick this up. Um, for example, in projects that are with high wind speed area, you know, how do you ensure the structural stability, and also what type of structure do you all propose? Anyone have any experience deploying and designing projects that with very windy location? You know, who would like to take this? Would like to share some experience?
So let me have an opportunity to share my experience in Philippines. We did
Okay.
a 120 megawatt solar project in Philippines for Ayala, and the wind speed, if I remember it correctly, was like for the transmission line it was 240 kilometers per hour, and for the structure for the PV module it was like 180 or something.
Mm.
uh, because typhoon prone area and a lot of typhoons are there very frequently in Philippines. So yes, the cost, if I purely look at from a developer perspective, the cost shoots up for the structure, for the piling. The length of the piles are increased because you need a the wind load is the pull out load of that becomes very high, as well as the testing and the software analysis is also done in depth in order to ensure that the project is done properly and achieves its total timeline of 25 years. The difficulty which I faced was, now there are two. I'm not touching more on the technical, on the structural aspect. I want to touch from a developer's point of view. So what happens is, either you go for the actual wind tunnel test or you go for a software analysis. Now this wind tunnel test is very, if I am not wrong, or correct me if I am wrong, that these wind tunnel test is available only two laboratories in the world. One is in China, and then there is one more laboratory which is located somewhere in US. I don't know the name of these two. So the only solution which you are left with is to go with a software solution and to check the parameters which the input which goes into that. So it's a very lengthy process in order to come up when compared with respect to a region like in Indonesia, where you are having 30, 40 kilometers per hour speed. So yes, it's very challenging. In fact, there are some manufacturers of tracker system which not at all operate in those areas where where the wind speed limitations are very high. So it's a major limitation with respect to implementing a tracker system in your project. Again, it depends on the budget. It depends upon the PPA agreement, the price of electricity which you are getting. So there are many variables in that. Maybe from the structural point of view, maybe other panelists will be in a better position to uh, give you analysis when it comes to purely structure and what should be the material, what should be the strength of the material, so things like that. But I look at purely from a commercial perspective and from the developer perspective. Thank you, Mr.
Very good insight. Thank you, Mr. Sahu. So I would say, other than wind speed, to confirm the structural design, the soil condition and
Yeah,
the other few factors are equally important. Huh?
yeah, very critical. Yeah.
Yeah, for the audience to take home, please do consider all these parameters. Get your if you're landowners or your core developers, get ready with all this information so that the partners, or like Sun Energy and the others, able to come up with a more realistic design and costing for the project, right? So, okay, next, how about this? Um, what kind of probably I pose this question to Moit, and what kind of strategy do you employ uh, in your procurement process, of structure of those items that need to import from overseas, to ensure on time deliveries, of the projects. So as a EPC, you see, so um, in
So
view
I,
of the current logistic costs and the raw material costs hike up, so how can you soften the impact? What have you done? What is your opinion?
So we can, I can probably give you some insight from a EPC and developer's point of view as well, because we're largely developing projects of our own. So one of the key things to keep an eye on is the supply chain situation in the market. That's correct. So we need to ensure we keep up to date with the market situation, be agile and resilient, and plan well for the procurement. We need to assess the key suppliers who can maintain continuous supply chain, meaning check for their source of raw materials, the suppliers with internal upstream raw material supplies, big players who has purchasing power in the market. And another aspect is the logistics arrangement. This is something we have faced frequently in the past. This is key as well for this situation. I mean, apart from ensuring the supplier is capable of producing the goods and components on time, they must also have the capability to secure the delivery channels to, as we have seen in many cases, the deliveries are being suspended or delayed because of logistics disruption, and they cannot find shipping vehicles or any slots to actually deliver, and even sometimes at the port things get stuck. So this is something we have a dedicated supply chain department that monitors this very closely. And when it comes to selection of suppliers, this is actually something we look at very carefully before any sort of selection.
I see. Yeah, I guess for to developers or to project owners, it's very important that you all engage reputable and experienced companies like where Moin are from, to have a proper SOP and also a team, to plan upfront and have very good relationship with all the suppliers, to ensure there's no interruption on the whole procurement chain and deliveries of the products. You see. So imagine that you have a deadline and contract to fulfill. So if all these are being interrupted, that will be a disaster, especially in this challenging endemic situation. Uh, okay, so um, so Mr. Lee, so how about your your experience, your experience in this, um, in view of low tariff, PPA tariff situation, for Malaysia and for over the regions also. Okay, how do you ensure that the projects, the structures, the technologies, what do you deploy to ensure that the developers still have a good pricing, EPC pricing, and without compromising the projects or asset quality, you know. So, what do you all do?
Okay. For this part, I think right now in Malaysia, especially in the utility scales project, the tariff has become very, very, very competitive. So over the past few cycles, so so for us, in view of this low tariff, there's two ways we can look at it. First one is to lower down our costs. The other one is would be like maybe increase the yield generation from the project. So maybe you can deploy some strategy like installing a tracker, which will increase the yield of the solar plant. And then beside that, to ensure like to lower down the cost of the material, uh, especially on the structure. Mainly is to find some alternative material to replace the materials that we have right now. So, for example, I can give some example, like for example, like fixed tail. So there are people using aluminium kind of mounting structure, which is good, lightweighted, anti-corrosive, but in terms of price, it can be a little bit expensive. So if compared to like maybe using steel, hot dip galvanized steel, where you can lower down the cost, but still ensure the quality of your structure. And then I think, yeah, right now there are some other materials coming out. For example, like max steel, which can further lower down the cost lah. That's my take on it.
I see. So, in short, as per the title, is technology, in terms of the enhancement on the material technologies, you see, cheaper material, more cost-effective material with longer corrosion impact,
Yep.
Um, those are one of the things. The other one will be the structural design. So for that, Bella, which is from Artec, the manufacturer, one of the top manufacturer in the world. Um, how do you all help developers and project owners in terms of to increase the yield, in limited land or if it's a flat land, So what type of structure do you recommend at what scenario? Okay, for developer.
Okay. Basically, this will be related to the types of structure available, and according to especially Malaysia and even Southeast Asia, they are temperate, the weather, the land situation. We have more hilly lands actually in this region. So what's the mainstream people go with, and how we are going to make those choices and the recommendations. Basically, yeah, we are all talking about, we know there are tracker and fixed structure, and there are certain, I'd say, basic aspects that help us to make the choices. Like for one thing, wind speed, as the questions you earlier discussed about, for areas with high or even extreme wind speed. Then you mentioned about the wind speed over 240 kilometer per hour. Then if converted to meter per second, that's over 60 or even over 65 meter per second. That's very high. If it's that kind of condition, then we would recommend to just go with fixed, forget about tracker. And if it's below 50 meter per second, normally, yeah, we are good with tracker. And also there are some other aspects, like if the land is flat or hilly, we can adapt to certain slope, but preferably be within maybe 20%. And also there are, like I mentioned, there are 2P, there are 1P tracker. Among them, 2P, because the cost is higher, actually and it's shorter. So combine all those factors, we can use in some moderate terrain area. And if it's flat, like some areas they have quite ideal flat land, then go with 1P tracker if other condition allows. And also the soil condition, we would do the foundation calculation. That one is more on the civil part, but that also will help us to decide which solution to go with. And also there are some other conditions, like if they have enough living time, if they have enough time to prepare, because tracker for generally it will require longer, around maybe 10 or 15% higher on construction hours, and it will request higher initial investment, but in return, in the lifespan, it will have better return of investment in general.
Yeah, I would just like to add something and ask one question from Bella. As she rightly mentioned, I think the limitation with respect to tracker system is 150 kilometers per hour. That's the limitation. I think there are other manufacturers who also confirmed me that very limitation. The second thing is, I think it's not much about the LCOE or on the return of the investment. I think it's more about on the capex. So, so now, as you know, the cost, the module costs are rising, and then you have a bifacial module with the efficiency or degradation of around 0.45%. But all in all, when I look into it, I am adding like 10 cents to 7 cents per watt if I am using a single access tracker. I just want to understand, is the industry or the manufacturer are working in the direction to lower down this cost? Because the competition is so high. Even if I increase my cost by 1 cent, 2 cents, I lose out. So how the manufacturers are, or what R&D they are doing in order to lower the cost? Can you please help me with that insight?
We are. Actually, in general, I wanted to reassure to use tracker with, especially bifacial module. It will increase around 20 to 30% of extra energy output. Hence, you can install less module and will be less construction, less labor hours,
BOP
etc.
cost,
So
you are saying
yes,
balance of plant
that's the
cost will be
benefit.
reduced.
And also what you asked about our supplier side, what we are doing to try to lower the cost to make it more affordable. We've been trying a lot, as I mentioned. We have for right now, we are promoting and we are supplying mainstream is the second generation of our 2P solution and 1P solution. And we are using multi-point drive, and there are some other adjustment and upgrades on the design, on the model, and on the all the aspects, technical aspect, and the new generation of AI configuration, etc. So we've been putting a lot of R&D resources, and not just us, also the other top players from German, from American. We are all pushing to new generation to use like a better and more advanced monitoring system to combine with better and the new generation of AI solution, and our new model and the new generation of tracker system that using this upgraded design, it will allow to lower the cost, and it's happening. It's with lower cost, especially at higher wind speed area, and also the stability, etc., is also much more improved. For those who are in this industry for longer years, you would know previously then we had not just single axis, we had maybe dual axis. We had the not
Okay.
we had linked tracker, etc. But it's over the years we study and we do R&D, and also according to the actual system installed, see the performance, everything. So after all those years, now we know which one is the best, which direction is the best technical direction, and which solution, which function is necessary, and which are not. That can be
So
excluded to make it more. As we always say, we have certain function that is essential, and as long as it be functional, it will be smart and functional and stable, then the simple the best.
thank
That's
you,
also,
Bella.
yeah.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Sahu, so anything to add on that? What trend are you seeing in terms of optimizing of all this
So,
technologically to lower the cost of this and that?
so let me give you some numbers. So now what is happening is, if I am developing a utility scale project for a cement company or any other company, maybe a big manufacturing company, they have some extra land, and they want us to install, let's say, 30 megawatts or 50 megawatts. So they are not talking in terms of megawatt capacity. What they want is an assured number of gigawatt hour in a year. So what they are trying to fix is the energy yield. That's the minimum energy yield you need to achieve in a limited space of land available. And again, there is always this price comparison when you are doing a fixed type and when you are doing a ground mounted type. Sorry, when you are doing a single axis tracker. I've never used a dual axis tracker. So again, the demarcating line is the capex, because that is what I have to invest if I am doing a PBR contract. So all in all, I can say, if the tracker system needs to get into all the projects, the price has to be slashed down by a big margin. Unless that happens from an industry, I think it makes my life very difficult to convince my management to invest to go for a higher capex.
See. So, how about the other? Thank you for the insightful info. So, how about Lee and also Moin? What is your view on this? I would say, what is more important, initial capex or LCOE?
If you ask me, then I would actually lean towards saying that capex is a big driver, but lowering LCOE is the ultimate goal for us in most cases. So we sometimes also have to look at the design life and OpEx of the system. How much money can we actually save on the maintenance side as well, along with the higher generation. So I do support the idea of saving capex, but I think if we look at the long-term returns, the LCO is usually lower with the tracking system, depending on the region, of course, and the project itself. But
I see.
yeah, I would lean towards LCOE more in most cases.
And how about Lee, LCOE or capex? In your company policy.
I think that one is open for discussion, but in the long terms, I believe the LCOE will prevail. I think we are here to to educate the clients, uh, not just looking at the capex, but in the longer run time run. So we actually can increase the yield and then maybe lower down the LCOE. And then I just like to add on, like for example, like maybe we can find some technology advancement on the tracker itself, like for example, like cutting costs. I mean, while maintaining the minimum function of the tracker, we can find solution to like cut down the cost of the tracker. I mean, like for example, instead of using individual motorized tracker, we can try to use like a linkage type of tracker. So I think that would reduce the cost of the tracker capex.
Okay, interesting. So I would like to see the audience, any other view that LCOE or versus CAPEX, you see. So having said that, um, we have another, like, what, 10, our session will end 10, 3:40,
Yeah.
3:40, okay. We have another like 20 minutes, okay. So,
Hi, can I add something?
yeah, please. Go ahead, Bella.
Okay. Actually, quite agree with Lee. He mentioned that in our region, we need to do more client education. Many developers, they don't know what is tracker, or they have very limited knowledge and experience with the choices out there. Maybe they only know, okay, you can go with fixed and you are using what according to the limited experience they had. But yes, we have to do more client education. We have to show them the successful cases. And it's not just about the more initial investment, but also because of the lack of the information and confidence and experience in this category. So they intend to choose what they think is easier and what they know already. So we are doing that. We are trying to explain more and trying to educate more what is this and how it's going to work and what's the benefit and what's the difference. That's the work we are doing now. And if we look out of the picture into a bigger region, we can see in Southeast Asia, okay, Philippines is very, very big one space, so they are all using fixed. And in Malaysia, I would say still maybe 90% we are using fixed. And in our neighboring country, also still the majority, we are using fixed. Tracker, people are starting to encourage, people are starting to look into it. But like we have installed over 100 megawatt tracker in Malaysia, so that's a good sign. So people are starting to look into it. They are accepting it. But the mainstream is still those who make such choices are the bigger developers, bigger owners. They have maybe better financial backgrounds, and they have good experience and knowledge in this category. They know already, okay, this is a good choice. This is beneficial for them. So they are the pioneer in this region to do such thing. But if we look out in American, in even South American, in Europe, in Middle East, those, especially like Middle East, those like strong markets. Those markets, they have like big, like giant projects. Single project, they can be over 2 gigawatts, 3 gigawatts. Those place over 90% or even some place even 99 or even 100%, they are using tracker. So we are behind, but also we are limited by our condition. We have more hilly lines, and also by policy, some people, I think during the LSS PPA tender session, they promise higher DC installation, etc. All those kinds of factors kind of limited our choice in local, but still we have a big potential for the new projects. They can explore more possibility to make the best choice, to make a better and more suitable choice. They should have more choices and solutions
Yeah,
to look
so
into. Yeah.
education is very important. So we count on you, Bella, so that the
I'm
more
trying.
technology being utilized in this part of the world, the ASEAN Asian region. So may I do a quick survey with the speakers here, panelists here. Your projects on hand, or for the past these few years or upcoming, how many percent is it tracker systems? Okay, probably can start with Mr. Sahu.
So sorry to disappoint you. Right now, we are not considering a single project. Sorry for that, but I just
I
want to be
see.
realistic. So for
Good,
year
good.
2022, I think the possibility is very rare unless we get some new project where we can push for at least a single access tracker system.
Okay, maybe I turn
We
the
do-
question a little bit.
yeah, Mohit
So,
can give you some good news.
so, so, I'll pose two questions to every of the speakers. Number one, Sahu. So, no tracker at the moment, but you wish to do it. What you
Yes.
like to see? The price difference is about probably around 10 cents now. Is it? So, how?
Not that much. You are scaring me.
Okay, okay, okay. Bella. So, how many cents?
Maybe
Let's hear
around
from the.
4 cents. Yeah.
Okay, 4 cents. Okay,
Okay, 4 cents.
Sahu, you want it this 4 cents to pull to what? Pull to, no?
Yeah, whatever is
10 cents?
feasible, with the same technical spec. Okay,
Okay,
Mohit,
next.
please go ahead.
Uh, next, Moin.
So, so
Yeah.
we are exploring we're exploring Malaysia and Vietnam, to be honest. So all the designs we're doing, we do a comparison with both scenarios for fixed and tracking systems, and we are interested in implementing tracker here. We've built 240 megawatt of trackers in Australia already in the last 3 years,
Wow.
and this is something we want to do in Southeast Asia as well going forward, as long as it makes sense economically. So we're looking into it. Yes.
I see. So the big adoption is because of the vast land and flat land in Australia. Is it one of the reasons also?
Yes, and also the numbers just work well. I mean, the geographic location of Australia also makes it more feasible. The yield is much higher using trackers. And to be honest, I haven't seen a single project without tracking in Australia, even by other developers so far. There are a few, I know, at the airports and everything, but most of the projects there are tracker based.
When you do
And
the simulation, how many percent is it the yield increment?
I would say roughly around, I think around 25, between 25 and 30.
I see. So which is much higher than our like my side Malaysia simulation. We can't get that high. Probably 15 or realistically 15
Yeah,
plus.
with bifacials you can. I mean, with bifacials you can probably shoot up to close to 30 actually, even in Malaysia. But depends on how much land you have, what's the pitch is. So the more land you have, the better the yield is. But then also the land is expensive in Malaysia in many cases. So that's
Yeah,
another topic,
yeah.
I guess.
That's good to hear that. Bella would love to hear that. There are actually adoption. So how about Lee? You know, so your experience with a tracker.
Yeah. So far, unfortunately, we still haven't deployed any tracker project yet. But this is definitely something we are looking towards it. But we do have some concern of on the tracker itself. Like for example, Moin has mentioned that for tracker you need like a a, a bigger land size. And then I think tracker fits well with bifacial and maybe like a 2P because once 2P tracker you have higher height of the tracker, which is also better for bifacial module. And then the concern that we have on the tracker is basically on the O&M side of it. So whether you the mechanical parts of the motor and what kind of maintenance we need to maintain and compare it to like fixed steel. There's minimum kind of O&M towards the structure. So yes, definitely tracker will give you higher yield, but there's some others methods to take care of it also. Yeah.
Okay, good to know that. So, um, having said that, how about the operation and maintenance of tracker system? Can the speaker here share your experience? What to be careful, what not to overlook? When it comes with to tracker. Maybe probably Moin, you can take this. You have plenty of experience on this.
Well, I think actually I would say Bella has more experience than me probably because our plants are still quite new. But one thing we've seen is the first few years we didn't really face any issues, but from our colleagues in the US, we hear that there are some issues regarding parts replacement, or if your tracker is self-powered, battery replacement after a few years becomes evident that you need that. And but I would say surprisingly, the operational expenses have not been very high so far. But what we would like to see more, and I think this is also mentioned in the presentations from Bella earlier, is an intelligent tracking system with maybe more of a decentralized tracking platform, where on difficult terrains your tracking control is more decentralized and more optimized towards not the sun but actual light. And this is a key feature that's missing in many of our projects, and we are trying to change, and we're trying to move towards the direction now, like setting up new software platforms that can actually manage that, increase the yield by at least 1 or 2%, which can be a big number given the size of our projects. But
Yeah.
in terms of operational expenses, we haven't really faced any major issues yet. It has been reliable so far, I have to say.
So
Sorry.
how about the any motor failure or moving mechanical parts issue kind of stuff?
Well, we've had some damper replacements, motor failures. Luckily, no, we had some controls like power supply system failures. Nothing major out of the projects of this size. We faced more cosmetic issues, I think, rust issues on the piles or damages like that, or maybe some wear and tear. But so far on the electrical or control or mechanical moving parts side, I think we've been quite okay.
Okay, since you are speaking of this, I would have to remind again how important it is to choose a reliable supplier, someone with commitment, someone with good tracking record, someone with really reliable R&D ability and resources, etc. So that will largely affect the kind of O&M you will face. For us, well, we actually have some study and calculation sheets for standard O&M in its lifespan. If for those who are interested, you can contact me afterwards. I can share you this information. But generally, as long as it's, for example, from us, our experience is quite considered very low maintenance, and also if in some cases there are minor errors, but from the very beginning we have considered certain spare parts percentage is already prepared and stored. And also what Moin mentioned about roofs, I think that would be from maybe the supplier's processing problem. That's yes, another reason to remind you guys to carefully choose about the supplier, not only to look on the price. We've met many clients, whatever documentation, whatever design, drawing, supporting documentation, then they only look at the price. They only see that. Actually, you need to check more. You need to check more.
Yeah, I mean the pricing part also you have to look at. I think if you're coming from an EPC company against a developer, EPC companies will usually focus on capex in most cases because that's very important. But developers will usually look at LCOE, and if you're both, then sometimes it's a combination depending on who's leading the project. Mm-hmm. So I think both's important.
That is a combination of commercial and the technical and the service support committee. Yeah. I think it's a combination. You have to find a balance and choose the right one. Yeah.
Agree. Mr. Kong, you're on mute.
Thanks. So, for this topic, Bella, what is the warranty terms, of your company that are giving to the purchaser of your products? The warranty.
Yes. For warranty standard, I think it's more general in the industry. So for the steel parts, structure parts, around 10 years. And for the electricity part, 5 years, battery 2 years. But of course, it's open for extension. But that will be case by case. I think earlier, because you were talking about the energy yield, so I kind of recall last year we have one project in Australia. It was by a third party institute ranked the best performance solar farm of the year in Australia, and that farm I think is belong to Sun Energy, but sadly Mr. Sabu has left. So maybe for those interested, you can take more. Actually, I think that one, the extra energy yield was around 24-25%. They have more information shared from the internet because they are, for those, like you say in Australia, they take around 90%, even over 90%, they use tracker. So it's a more universal thing. They have the market player, they all know about it, and they run this kind of competition every year, and they have some kind of platform to see the performance of each solar farm. So there are certain information available on the internet, so you can check as proving evidence of how this tracker and the right module is benefiting your solar farm.
Okay, great, awesome. So, this Lee. So, what do you think of how do we further optimize to have better use? How do you feel about this bifacial module tech? That is it coming on mainstream, or are you guys using it?
Okay, before I go into this topic, I just want to check in Australia, what kind of tracker are they deployed? Like, is it a single axis or a dual axis where they track the daily sun or the
It's
season?
always single axis. For commercial solar farm, it's always single axis. Dual axis, it gives better energy yield, but it's non-commercial. It's too expensive, and it has like more difficult on and maybe high and also higher O&M. It's maybe they have some small application like solar umbrella and some like in very limited application, but it's not for utility.
Okay, thanks. So coming back to the question, I believe I've stated just now a single axis tracker plus bifacial module would be you'll be achieving the highest power yield I think in Malaysia, but we also need to take care of the land and also the O&M like other stuff lah. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, just on time. So that's my role to manage the time. It's 3:40. We are open for Q&A session. So let me check the Q&A box. There are some questions there.
It is displayed on the screen.
Good. So this is addressed to Bella. Yeah, your trackers are micropiling or ramming structure. That is
Ramming or ramping?
I think
Sorry, maybe
he's trying to ask whether it's the screw micropile or the C
for trackers.
panel
For trackers,
ramming.
it's always for trackers we don't use screw pile. It's either ramming pile or either like a concrete or like a concrete with flat or concrete insert into ground. For tracker, we don't use steel pile. And I think in my earlier presentation, I also showed different types of post. We have C profile steel, we have H profile, we have the U-shape profile. All those we would decide according to the wind speed, according to the site soil condition, according to if it's a flat land or it's hilly land, and what the slope like from north to south, from east to west. Combine all those conditions, we would make the right recommendation. But for tracker, there is no skill path.
Great. So I'll display the next question on the stage.
Okay, so the second questions. What is the difference between the inner row and outer row weight difference due to eccentric loading over tracker and the fixed tail? What is the percentage? What is the percentage due to the tick for inner and outer row ratio for weight? So who can take this?
I think it's for me.
Okay.
This is more a specific question. I would say it will be according to case. The outer row, like for tracker and fixed, it's different design concept. We also use different software and have different standards. For tracker, it's more dedicated. We would not only do the single row design, we would also help with the whole layout of the site. So it will have different wind zones from the exterior, corner, interior, and far interior. And sometimes you would have 4-string and 3-string and even 2 strings in one line. So that will be some different occasion. But generally, from the corner exterior to interior, so the weight per row per tracker is less and less, because the outside, you can imagine, the outside tracker, they would be facing higher wind speed, etc. So of course, the design would be different. Maybe the exterior and corner, we would have to add on extra long purling. We would use different dimension of post and beam, etc. So this would be very much specific according to the case, according to the project condition. But for fixed project, it's simple and straightforward. The whole land, the whole site is according to one type of design.
Great. Thank you so much. So now we'll be playing our corporate video by TrackX, and then we can wrap up with the session.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you all.
Business travel is most productive when kept simple, but without an effective travel and expense management system, the process can become complicated. Many companies use multiple systems, which leads to reduced visibility on travel ROI and less expense transparency, as well as hindering business productivity across the company. Without proper visibility into travel expenditures, companies have difficulty enforcing policies leading to out-of-control travel expenses. Moreover, employees are often confused as to which travel options comply with company policy and dread dealing with a convoluted expense reporting system upon returning from their hectic business trips. As a business leader, you must be thinking there has to be a better way. And there is. TrackX is the complete booking and expense management system for the enterprise. TrackX has flexible features and a smart compliance engine to configure and handle complex policies with real-time exception alerts based on budget, time frame, travel class, or any other variable. This makes it easy for travelers and managers to stay within the boundaries of corporate policy, saving time and money while eliminating stress. With TrackX, you get all the data and insights from your employees' travel. The user can build custom reports based on searches, trip details, and expense categories, facilitating enhanced decision-making, improved performance, and increased employee satisfaction. TrackX simplifies the entire business travel experience from start to finish. TrackX's built-in booking tool makes planning business travel a breeze. Employees can search the wide range of inventory, make selections, and book their request, which is immediately sent to a manager for approval. With TrackX's user-friendly interface for expense management, travelers become more efficient and can reduce the time it takes to submit a report by as much as 80%. The cloud-based platform and application make it easy for employees to enter their expenses on the go, using only their smartphone, with the added flexibility of scanning receipts or importing data directly from credit card transactions. TrackX's intelligent automation enables one-tap expense reporting, submission, approval, and reimbursement. Managers receive an organized report and guided review that allows approval from any device. This efficient system reduces the manager's workload and ensures employees get reimbursed quicker. A true win-win. In business, time is money. Now is the right time to simplify your company travel and expense management with TrackX. Sign up for a free 30-day trial today.
Thank you so much, team, for playing the video, and thank you very much, all our esteemed panelists, for this wonderful session. And a very special thanks to Kong sir for superbly managing the session. You were absolutely outstanding. Thank you so much for the terrific and very professional example you set as a moderator. It was a pleasure having you all and in this well-planned and highly energetic panel discussion. Thank you so much, everyone. And the show is not over yet. We are taking a short networking break and we'll be back with another exciting session on the topic of structural engineering trends and new age mounting technologies for rooftop solar projects. Till then, explore our exhibition lounge, network with your peers, and join our sponsors on the networking tables. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome back, attendees. It's time for our second session. Now, we have a sponsor video by Mr. Harshal Akholi, who is the co-founder of Stoller. So, sir, I would request you to start with your presentation, please.
Right. Yeah. So Stoller has been in the industry for around 8 years time, and we are India's leading mounting systems in rooftop. We are in fact largest mounting system suppliers for rooftop here in India, and the first company to cross 1 gigawatt of mounting structures here in India. We are not only available in India, we are also uh, catering to the needs in Africa, the Central Africa most specifically, and the Middle Eastern region. We are into the designing and the manufacturing of steel and aluminum mounting systems. So with with the COP26, India has a very ambitious mission of 450 gigawatts of solar, right, in about 5 years of time, and we have already crossed 175 gigawatt before the target date, which was 2022, right? So, solar has also expanded the manufacturing lines for our national and international, clients. We have 6 megawatt of daily production, both in steel and aluminum combined, and we have 100 plus active employees working with us, both in the design and the production and everything that we do. So we have manufacturing facilities in the North India itself, and we have one manufacturing location in Greater Noida, which is for aluminum, and one in Kosikala, which is for steel. We have supplied close to around 2.7 gigawatts of mounting systems worldwide. We have India's largest product range. I guess that is 38, and if we have added more, depending. We have 11 patents pending here in India and one international patent. Our strength is to optimize the system designs and at the same time provide robust mounting solutions. Our capacities are 3,300 tons per month for steel, and aluminum is approximately 30 megawatts per month. So here's the leadership team. The company was founded by Harshal, that is me, Mr. Gaurav, and Mr. Rajendran. And this was back in 2015 when we started this. We were working for a German MNC, and there was a huge gap in between what was being supplied and what was required. So we bridged that gap, and we quickly found ourselves among the popular people. So we've done close to around 7,500 projects, totaling up about 2.7 gigawatts. So these are the milestones. Solar started in 2015, but we started the manufacturing unit in 2016. We have invested heavily in R&D. We boast to be one of the best people when it comes to design here in India. And in 2016, we had, we were just beginning. 2017 was, further expansion of the existing capabilities. 2018 is international, going international. 2019, when we crossed 1 gigawatt, 2020 was 2 gigawatt, and so on and so forth. But with 2022, we have expanded manufacturing unit, and we are looking close to 2 gigawatts of supply for the calendar year, approximately 1.7. And that is what our aim is. We have a good strategic collaborations with, with the companies here in India and with the companies that trust us internationally. We have almost everything with us except for floating, which we manufacture for our clients internationally. We are pioneers, as I said, for rooftop here in India. We have industrial sheds, we have flat roofs, right? We have ground mount, we have carports. We have added a new feature to the carport where you can add your electric vehicle option as the system to the systems. As I said, dedicated R&D team. So this is India's first wind tunnel tested mounting systems for rooftop. So again, nothing can happen good unless you are following protocols. So one of the few companies to have TUV certifications for the manufacturing facility, and so on and so forth. So global projects, we have ground mounts, rooftop, everything that is possibly there, we have done it, and we've had repeated orders from the same clients over and over. Summarizing, we've served around 9 countries. We have 2.7 gigawatts of supplies, as I said already, with 7,600 projects execution. So advantage with of going with solar is not only the optimized racking or the global presence or the quality control or the manufacturing unit or the code compliant, not only here in India with British standards and Japanese standards. What we also help is free pre-design support, right? So let's say if you have a project that you're working on and it is not confirmed with you and you're a client, right, that comes to you for free and we help you win the project. So ultimately the project comes to us. So we have been working on this model with you know, with our clients here in India, and we have clients in Bahrain and other places where we are helping out with you know, such a model working. So yes, and that is it for my presentation.
Thank you so much, sir, for the insightful presentation. Now it's time to move to our much awaited panel discussion for the session on structural engineering trends and new age mounting technologies for the rooftop solar projects. In the esteemed panel, we have Mr. Harshal Akhori from Stroller, Mr. Milan K from Hexagon Peak, Mr. Wilson Zhang from Liz Energy, Mr. Sanoj James from Total Solar Distribution Generation, and Mr. Alan Himes from Indigo Energy MM. Welcoming all the panelists on the screen, and I will hand it over to Harshad, sir. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for finding time and visiting today's webinar. My name is Harshal, and I am the co-founder at Solar Mounting Systems, and I will be the moderator for the session. The session is structural engineering and new age mounting technologies for rooftop, and we have the esteemed panelists joining us for the session. As Priyanshi already mentioned, Mr. Milan, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Sanoj, and Mr. Alan Himes. Uh, Going forward with you know, every single panelist will introduce themselves. I have a few things, a few housekeeping notes that I would want to say before we start with everybody's introduction. uh, Today's session is being recorded and it will be available for post session on YouTube. You don't need to record or do anything or scribble down things. It will all be available. And if you have anything, questions for the panelists, you can use the chat feature, mention all of your questions. We will get back to you with the Q&A round. And we will be speaking to each of the panelists for 15 odd minutes. And post that, we will be you know, utilizing our 10 odd minutes for summarizing the entire discussion. And in the end, a 10-minute question and answer round will be followed, where we'll be picking up questions from the chat feature. We'll broadly be covering the popular mounting systems and everything that is you know, being utilized in the global region, the kind of materials that are being used, and the experiences of the esteemed panelists while with the working with the rooftop systems. And yeah, so Mr. Milan to the table, would you please introduce yourself again for the entire
Uh,
audience?
Actually, Milan sir has some technical error, so he'll be joining us again in a while. So you can proceed with
Okay,
the other
I'll
speakers.
be I'll be moving forward with Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson is the CTO at LYS Energy. Mr. Wilson, if you could introduce yourself.
Thank you, Herschel. Hi everyone. This is Wilson. We are at LYS Energy. We are a developer and EPC um, company focusing in Southeast Asian countries like Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Thailand. Those are where our projects are. LYS has been almost 10 years now, and our main focus are rooftop C&I in industrial projects. One of the largest single installation is in Indonesia, and one of very popular beverage company, and the size is about 7 megawatts. So, so these commercial and industrial installations are getting much larger, and I'm very happy to share my experience with everyone on rooftop mounting structure and what to look out for, and any questions that you may have. I'll be very happy to share my thoughts. Thank you.
Sure, sure. We have Mr. Sanoj James on the panel with us. He's the head engineering for Total Solar and Distributed Generation. Mr. Sanoj, if you could introduce yourself again.
Hi, my name is Sanoj James. I head engineering and project development for Total Solar in Southeast Asia. I'm based out of Bangalore in India, but Total Solar is part of the total group, which is primarily was known for the oil industry, and it's
Right.
much focused today in the renewable space. So in C&I, we did about 100 megawatt last year. We have ambitious targets. We are still doing quite a lot of large projects, rooftop, ground mount, floating, energy storage. Happy to participate in this discussion and hope to bring value to the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Now we have a final panelist, Mr. Alan Himes. He is the Managing Director at Indigo Energy MM. Mr. Alan, if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alan Himes. Like Harshal mentioned, thanks for the introduction. And the MM in Indigo Energy is for Myanmar. And while I'm not in Myanmar at the moment, I've been based there full time since 2012, so almost 10 years. And just taking a short time away following the political excitement that transpired last year, where and we are essentially an EPC company. The projects to date the EPC projects to date that we've done have all been in country, so mostly C&I rooftop. Not terribly big projects, just because the market in Myanmar is not terribly big. But following the coup last year, we shifted our focus to focus more on engineering services for developers and other EPCs from Myanmar, just because we have all the experience from doing real engineering work, and so we like to use that despite the difficulties in our home jurisdiction. So looking forward to talking more about the practical examples around racking and mounting structures, rather than any theory, just because we're an end user and not a not a manufacturer.
Right. So we'll be starting it off. My first question to the panel is, what kind of engineering limitations are you facing with commercialized and industrial locations of working out? Right. So talking about each rooftop is a different problem altogether. How are we managing with the structure specifically and otherwise? I would like to restate the question. How are we ensuring the quality of the structures that we are receiving for our rooftop projects?
Okay, I'll be happy to provide some thoughts. Now, typically, the most common material for rooftop projects now are aluminum alloy. They're very lightweight, very easy to transport, and very easy to rework if required on site. Now, with logistics being one of the key transportation process that has to bring these bulky materials to site, I think material specification, packaging, and also tolerances of dimensions are very critical for us. In some of our cases, we have seen damage to mounting structure components, and because we are in a C&I projects, we typically do not have a lot of spare parts. So we purchase almost exactly what we need. So we really trust that the suppliers that we work with provide a very good care in the packaging, transportation of the materials, and the specification has to be correct, and so that it doesn't have any incompatibilities with building materials that we're working on. That is my take on this.
Mr. Sanoj, yes. I'll move forward to Mr. Sanoj. Mr. Sanoj has executed approximately 100 megawatts of C&I space the last year. Do you happen to have similar issues that you're facing, which Mr. Wilson is facing, sir, or do we have a different set of problem statements?
I did. Logistics is a pretty big challenge. So one of the thing I sometimes see encounters with structures, or especially in C&I, the C&I is pretty different from utility, because utility you can have more manpower, more controls and checks, but C&I is small projects, so you're limited on that. Is like some of the designs have several components in there, like you have a washer, you have a spacer, you have a what do you call that, serrated washer. I mean, there's so many components in there, and if they're not assembled in the right sequence, the structure can't do its job. So
Right.
probably from a design philosophy, especially what I would look at from rooftop structures is especially to have the least number of components, so that the people not really are fully skilled or have to be fully skilled to do the job. That's definitely one. And this also means that the chances of loss of part is minimized. Like Mr. Wilson said, like, I mean, logistics, you're transporting this in a small container, and some parts are misplaced. The worker doesn't have time to look for the part, he just fixes it. So yeah, so typically that's something that's important from my view on a structure, that we have very less number of parts. And being an aluminum alloy, mostly today, I think the quality of the aluminum alloy in the market is not that bad. I mean, most of the time it's well defined. We didn't see a challenge with the material specification per se. We are again on the wind load. That's pretty much to be taken care of the design, and we have to validate with respect to design documents. So, yeah, that's my take on this.
Mr. Allen, any word on this?
Sure. Yeah, I guess our philosophy, we also try to keep in mind that the skill of the team actually on the roof might not be terribly high, and making things simple is quite important. So, and we do generally keep a fair amount of those smaller spare parts around, just because you know, like Senoj mentioned, that it's not really worth digging around for it if it's just a screw or washer or whatever. You know, just go and get another one from the bucket, right? Because the speed of installing the system has a value, and so we don't want to let a screw or a washer hold that up. So that's something that we try to kind of build into our thinking, because oftentimes people get fixated on you know, having the precise you know, we need exactly 17 washers and 14 something else, and then you end up spending more time. You know, the value of the time that you spend worrying about those 17 washers, but I only found 16. Then, you know, it's not worth just buying another half a dozen washers or 50 washers, right? So we try to maintain high technical quality, but also flexibility in being able to install things well. And also we work with primarily one supplier, because we're not a huge I mean, the US the Myanmar market is not a huge place, and so we work with the same supplier, and so we just have a close relationship with them. If they smash a couple of rails on the way to us, then they'll just, you know, we just take some photos, send it with WeChat. They're Chinese, and we get those on the next order. You know, we just kind of we try to kind of help them figure out what's going on, so that they can help us by sending better quality material.
All right, that's a profound you know, way of working. I mean, that's how currently we are working with the current situation. Mr. Milan, any thoughts on that? Anything to add?
Sorry, Harshal, can you repeat the question, please?
What are the current challenges that you're facing with your rooftop C&I projects?
Oh, that's
Especially,
in many categories, but from a technical perspective, I think that
especially if in structures, if you want to
yeah,
classify something.
the biggest challenge that we see, particularly in Southeast Asia, is the structural strength of the roofs, and in many cases we have to deal with roofs that are particularly weak for the load of the equipment, and so that creates troubles, and the solution is either roof reinforcement, which is usually a costly solution, The other one is of course an insurance, which in some cases can also be not perfect. So I guess I'm still looking forward for new technologies to come in where the weight of the equipment, the panels, will be reduced further. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still looking forward to see mounting solutions which do not require any holes whatsoever. More of a sticky kind of mount, and those already exist. However, they don't seem to be extremely reliable. Um, And yeah, I guess there is a long way. I guess there is a big market if some of the manufacturers are trying to find niche markets. There is a huge market in Southeast Asia of roofs that are in the need of lighter equipment and easier to install. Particularly is commercial and industrial segment in Southeast Asia. These are Indo-China countries. Uh, we have probably 60, 70, 80% metal roofs, which in most cases are not sufficient as a strength.
Right, right, right. So, extending to what Mr. Milan said, I would like to add another question. Is don't we have already defined structures for industrial sheds at a particular loading, which is let's say 15 kgs per square meter for industrial shed for tin sheds, and for RCC roof we have a weight limitation of 60 kgs per square meter. Are we looking for things that are lighter than the current defined ratio? Right, that is the first point. And if we have customized working, right, how does the supply chain pan out for the long part of the stock holding or stocks or creating stocks in order to fulfill the value chain? Right, I would like to repeat the question once again. First question is, we have already defined 15 kgs per square meter, right? Across the globe it is accepted, 15 kgs per square meter, including the modules and the structures and other parts, right, as a dead load onto the roof, right, for tin sheds, and 60 kgs for rooftop for RCC roofs. Isn't this already sufficient, or are we looking for something which is much lighter than the current pretty much standard defined standards that people are following across Europe, here in India, and everywhere else? The second question leading to this is, if we do not have a specific requirement, right, predefined specification technical, would we not be looking at something which is customized requirement, and that will disrupt your supply chain or the stocking that you're doing for your complete value chain supplies?
Well, I think it's a very good question, but it's also I think we'd like to also point out this, that the roof built for us to install any PV system really depends from the building structure itself. I think, like Mr. Milan has pointed out, in Southeast Asia, you may not find all buildings that you try to install solar, or customers who are looking for solar, to have the same build quality. Uh, I mean, typically it's metal shed roofs in Southeast Asia. A lot of VC&I buildings are in manufacturing facilities. It, and with the addition of 15 kilograms per meter square load, you are actually adding not just itself the dead load, with seismic load, with many structural requirement calculations, that changes the dynamic. So you have to add reinforcements to strengthen the base structure, just because you're adding a little bit more weight, and also to take into consideration the wind load. Now, wind load is also something that is quite specific, because as we approach, for example, in Singapore, the buildings are getting much taller. As the building gets taller, the wind load conditions are different. The wind speeds that you have to cater for are also different. So if we were to look into a perspective of a RCC roof mounting structure, the counterweights, the ballast stones, the uplift forces are different. So there is no one single rule to say, oh, all concrete roofs should be able to, be weighted down with a certain kilograms per meter square. So it's really dependent on the installation location, the structure quality of the building from the start, and so all these changes. Now, the module itself is quite. We all understand the weight of the module. Even though as the module get larger, the weight per meter square is quite consistent. Now, on the aspect of the mounting structure, which only probably is about, for aluminum structure, I think it's about 2 kilograms per meter square. It's very light. I think the innovation comes on getting the system design simpler, and then also with other components to add in features when it comes to aluminum, with a lot of profiling, to get the weight of the aluminum down, and the interconnection, the connection joints to transfer the weight to the substructure. All these innovations come to the design aspect. Now, if that can be taken care of in the industry, to have very standardized installation and innovation that can be utilized across new designs, then I think on your second question, the logistical point of view, it will be a lot easier to manage. From different brands, you could use similar components or similar design specifications. I hope I provide some
Yes,
insights.
pretty much. Everything that was there to be said, you have, said it. And when it comes to, coming from structure background, right? The systems are already, in terms of structure, have already been optimized, right? So you can find, micro rails which are much lighter than your longer rails, and the distribution on the substructures that have already been, done, right? With the modules getting, heavier these days, the loads on the roof are pretty much higher. Mr. Sanuj, if I could have your experience, on this, how we can standardize something like this.
Well, I think I tend to agree with Mr. Wilson. Mostly, the standardization is not an easy thing, especially when it comes to the context of Southeast Asia, because people don't follow standard construction rules. Everybody has their own interpretation of what kind of sheet to use. Some use a trapezoidal sheet, some would use a clip lock roofing sheet. Some of them also still with asbestos and various things. So I guess standardization to a context of Southeast Asia is pretty challenging, and it's a difficult thing to question. And also the design rules and the circumstances are different. For example, if you take it, say Thailand, you have wind speeds ranging somewhere around 22 to 25 meter per second. Indonesia has something similar, but if you say Philippines, it goes all the way to 60 meter per second. And so the extremities of the weather is pretty vast. Indonesia, you get situations where you have volcanic eruptions, and the volcanic ash can add additional load onto the structure. That could be a problem. So we also have to make allowances to remove this volcanic ash when you create the system design. So there are various complexities depending on where you're operating. Malaysia or Singapore, it's a lot of rainfall. So for lightning intensity, when you have pretty high lightning intensities, Malaysia, so it's good that you carry some of the lightning current through the structure if it is already certified to do that, so that we can avoid the additional conductors. Like I said, so maybe country-specific standardization is possible, but the regional standardization looks a little far in this scenario.
Right.
Coming to the
And
sorry, go ahead.
You please.
Yeah, coming to the RCC roof, again, when you have this very high wind speeds and with the large format modules coming, it's pretty challenging to maintain those for a 60 kg per square meter when you like as those modules, like when you talk of 60 meter per second, the supplier says you have to have 4 clamping points. Sorry, 8 clamping points
Yeah.
instead of 4. So the whole structure configuration changes. And so these are things that creates challenges in creating a uniform standard across the region.
Right. Mr. Milan also spoke on the anchoring points, like something which you can utilize for tin sheds. Also spoke on utilization of adhesives for anchoring of the substructures or the mounting systems. Do you happen to have an experience on working on such a solution for your projects, or are you doing the traditional method of self drilling onto the roof or riveting?
But if the question is to me, we did explore that, but I was not totally convinced on the mechanism for a couple of reasons. One, the sheets, when you say they are galvanized and painted, so whatever kind of adhesive you're putting is on the PPG, or that is a pre-painted galvanized roof. So so the strength depends on how strong the paint is adhering to the this thing. Secondly, it has to be a clean surface. I mean, I don't think we can ensure during the installation that the workers are going to clean every single point spick and span before these sticks it, so that the adhesion is solid. And thirdly, I mean, we came across some people who wanted to stick the modules to the surface, but totally against it because one is a module replacement, and we also need certain clearances from the thermal loss perspective. So we just cannot stick the modules to the roof like a sheet of paper. So yeah, so though these suggestions that has come to us several times in the past, and we did explore, we never implemented because of this.
Right. Anyone in the panel who's had experience of installing with adhesives on the tin shed?
We've had clients request it, and we always push back as well. They ended up going with another supplier for that project, and we saw the photos, and essentially they would use a grinder to deal with the paint issue. So they grind down to the metal, and I guess it's clean-ish, if you wipe it down at the same time. That was something that we've I mean, we would never do that on a project that we were going to own long term. If the client insists on it, then because they're worried about holes in their roof, and if it's a shopping mall, which this particular project was, then I guess holes in the roof are a big deal, because you have a fair amount of high value material underneath, right? So that's something that they were more sensitive about. That project went in a couple of years ago, so I haven't heard yet. Kind of the longer term. How does it handle the heat from Myanmar? The heat and humidity, right? Because of course the rainy season in Myanmar is pretty intense. So we'll see. When we go to the shopping mall and we see solar panels in the street, next to the road, then I guess we'll know that was a bad idea.
Right.
So I think the adhesion and adhesive challenge is being addressed in the construction industry. Typically now with a lot of construction methodologies, with a lot of precast structures, precast construction, these construction adhesives are getting acceptable. I think more importantly is the surface of the material itself. From aluminum bonding to a painted surface is definitely, a lot of pre-treatment needs to be done. You have to ensure that the surface is good, the adhesion is good. The cohesion of the adhesive typically does not have too much of an issue if you use a good product. I think like what Mr. Sanot has mentioned, the adhesion is something that we have to be very careful. Searching tests can be done in the lab, with salt mist, with weathering, to quantify the tensile strength, the adhesion of adhesive. So we have done some installation with adhesives. I think one of the main considerations we always get from our customers, like what Mr. Allen has mentioned, is water and seeping through. with the number of holes that you're going to make. Even though you could be existing holes already, just changing the screw out, but that is also one of the big concern, which come to a point. If I think one of the a good discussion would be is if some customer were to ask us what type of roof sheet should I have if I want to prepare my building for solar installation. We always would recommend something that's not like a trapezoidal type. Something that is a seam clamp type. Would
Flip
be
lock.
better. The clip lock is probably the best, and always use a very good roof sheet supplier. Something like Lysart, Blue Scope, something that will last as long as the PV module. That is also very important.
To summarize this, even if the product is really nice, the product is good on paper, uh, there are execution challenges when it comes to adhesive based system, because the type of installer who is going to install, even though the product is very nice, right, it is dependent on the person who's working at his frame of mind, how he's scraping off the roof, the paints and everything, and how he's sticking on to the adhesive. If the paint is not taken off properly, then the warranty will be void. If the paint is overgrazed, right, there can be leakages, right? So a system, when it is defined, it should be cleaned from both the design and the execution aspects as well, from my standing point of view. We will also want to understand if there is any particular working experience that you have had from your projects that you've done, and you think that it should have been done this way, it would have saved money, time, and everything. Is there any case study or anything that we have from our experiences? So I'll also talk about uh, projects that are installed at higher wind speed regions, like in Myanmar, right? There are high wind speed gusts, right? So how do you design such a system? How do you a certain system is, let's say, validated at 210 miles per hour or 225 miles per hour, right? But that is not designed as per the relevant area code, right? So how do you ensure that the high wind speed is catered well with while designing the systems, not designing the mounting system to be specific, but designing the entire plant? Is there anything that we keep in mind? My question is to all the panelists. If yeah.
Yeah, we generally follow best practice. We in terms of the mounting structure, we tell our supplier we want this many meters per second. Then they send us the appropriate thickness and material. And aside from that, that's none of our panels have come off. We do regular maintenance for them as well. I guess that's an important part, just to go by and check that all the clamps are seated properly. But aside from that, we don't think about it too much, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In terms of wind speed.
I think in high wind speed regions, typically you should also take a look into the module manufacturer's recommendation. It is very important that the fixing points on large format modules be, following the warranty requirements, installation manual. When we have high wind pressures over the module, there's always certain deflections. Now, these deflections might cause micro cracks in the cells. That is quite important to be able to maintain the module warranties and performance that is required. Now, with that in mind, if you were to follow most recommendations, it's more about how do you affix the anchoring points of the structure to the substructure of the building, right? So I think that really depends on the local design code, the roof installation, the structure, how does it work, to prevent anything lifting off the roof. I think if you could have unlimited fixing points, anchoring points, it would be ideal. But to a certain extent, you also don't want to create too many connections. Every connection is a potential point where you have some failures, waterproofing issues and stuff like that. So I think on in terms of high wind speed, this is not a very it's not something that cannot be addressed with some engineering, following the design codes, making sure you do your simulations properly to ensure that the required wind speed is taken into your design. I think that can be addressed.
Right, right.
So
Yeah.
if I go if I'm add here, basically, yeah, the design is something critical. Again, there are they have to be two different situations. One is a situation where you have a metal roof building, and the other is a situation when you're talking of a flat roof. So typically in a metal roof building, one of the way you address is you may have to use long reels instead of short reels. That's so that you get additional clamping points. And but when it comes to the flat roof, one of the options we have to look at also is changing the tilt angle of the module if required. Yes, agree that may not be the best situation for you from an energy yield perspective, but then from the economics perspective, it is a compromise between the optimized tilt as well as the cost that you add onto the structure and ballast. So yeah, these are the ways this has to be addressed apart from the standard design, like you follow the ASC code or the Euro code, depending on what you want to choose.
Absolutely, Mr. Sanoj, I agree with your point. There can be a compromise on generation, but reducing a certain tilt would, keep ensuring that the roof, along with the structures, last there for 20, 25 odd years, right? And a specific tilt might lead to greater generation, but might not ensure as all the wind speeds of any particular region is calculated through a 50-year wind cycle, and that has been calculated. Let's say, for example, in India, our wind calculation that we followed pre 2014 was as per the data and everything that we had back in 1987. The world has grown rapidly after that. There has been a lot of deforestation, there has been a lot of global warming, changing of weathers, right? So a certain factor of safety is always built in with the systems, but it is always good to have certain workability from our own side before throwing in the numbers, even though the software say otherwise, right? So I would also want to touch on another point wherein we talk about the supply chain in the global scenarios here, right? So how do you think, is there a limitation in the supply chain, or is the supply chain there are enough materials, but the prices are fluctuating all the years, and it has resulted in few loss making or reduced profit projects? So how do you think the supply chain is going to change, or it is going to stay the same in the coming quarters? This question is for the entire panel. We'll start with Mr. Sanoj on this.
If you talk of a structure specific supply chain, I really don't see a big challenge because you have options here, and most of the countries they manufacture some sort of a metalwork. Most of the countries have. Agreed. So the one from China probably have a higher volume and lower price premium on them, but even if that doesn't happen, that each country can do it its own, because as long as the design is done, the manufacturing of structure is not so complex. Because it's, if you're looking at aluminum, it is just extrusion and it's a competency. It exists. That's I don't see much risk on a supply chain perspective per se. And again, keeping the comfort, basically, it's like it's more a question of comfort in the country you're operating. So if, for example, you get more people comfortable using a certain brand of structure, it's better you go with it, because the competency on how to select the components, how to install them, how to source the spares already exists. So you really don't have to go and educate the workers, because you could just issue them the drawings and they know what to use and how to use them. So I think the selection will be more always dependent, because structure definitely is an important component. It's not an important. It's one of the most important components for sure. But the cost that it contributes onto the project is not very significant. So what drives it is its availability, in my view, and its comfort from the user standpoint. So that's my view on this.
Mr. Milan, any word on this?
Yeah, I agree on mounting structures. The manufacturing is quite diversified, but I guess the question is a little bit more broad because you can't build a system with mounting structures alone, so you need panels.
Yes.
We have seen a bit of troublesome supply chain in 2021. Starting from 2020, actually. In fact, it followed COVID. Um, right now, things are looking a little bit better in terms of availability. So suppliers are ramping up their utilization rates again, which is good. The only problem remains the raw material, which is still coming with unforeseeable pricing. And in the lack of long-term contracts, we will probably have another year of pricing uncertainty. So I think it's a little bit too early to estimate what the prices will look like, but definitely there is going to be no constraint in deliveries. Solar panels will be available, so that's for sure. Now the question is just at what price.
All right.
Yeah, that's something
Mr.
that
Alice.
we've also seen starting up is pushback by I guess we haven't lost any projects as a result of this, but we've definitely gotten pushback from clients because the racking price, the mounting structure price is different than it used to be. And if they're not following the aluminum market or even the just the general supply chain problems, then they don't understand why, and so then they push back against us. Obviously, we explain it, but nobody wants to see higher pricing, right? Even if it's for a good reason. So yeah, but in terms of insight into when that will change, it's I don't know. I guess also another pressure point is the shipping costs. So shipping containers from out of China are definitely a lot more expensive than it used to be, and so that's another thing that drives drives the cost up, right, along with the raw material pricing. I guess in a sense it is it's kind of like raw material, right? It's part of your cost, and if your volumes are not so high, then that becomes a big portion of your total cost.
Yeah, the shipping, the cost goes high when the capacities are low. Mr. Wilson, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, mounting structure, the total cost of the mounting structure compared to the rest of the components is marginally small. But I think it's quite important that when we do projects in Southeast Asia, if we could find suppliers that are that has manufacturing facilities that are closer to the project, is better. That makes the logistics a little bit easier to plan. I'm also quite interested to see that there are, for example, with the RC concrete mounting structures, these counterweights, typically with precast concrete, all these materials could possibly come from some recycled aggregates, some material that is more closer to the project. So I think in terms of logistics wise, it's still okay. It's not a big issue. In terms of volatility, there has been significant changes in the LME price, but for most of our suppliers, they are still able to manage to hold prices quite reasonable for structures itself. I think it's
Right,
something
so
that's still manageable for this year.
Yeah. So I would also want to ask how the EPCs or the developers work out the incremented rate. So let's say aluminium is operating at their highest working price currently as per the raw material, right? So there is a certain increment in the cost, right? Obviously, structures is not something which is a major contributing factor in the cost, but it is certainly there, right? So how do developers or EPC for the foreseeable time, let's say for a year, as Milan said, is going to stay the same? So how do you work out on the prices of the entire solar project if the increment of the certain material goes up? Is there a certain buffer that you guys take, right? Or is there a limitation to the profits that you're making because of the increment in the BOS supplies? Now the
I think
question
this
is
is a very honest question. It's very hard to answer. It's a relationship between the suppliers and us as well as our customers. If the customers can be understanding, or actually in some product there is a price cycle. If you are able to purchase at the right cycle, you might benefit, but it's very hard to say whether the cycle is going to stay the same, right? So I think it's a relationship between the customer, ourselves, and our suppliers as well. Um, Prices cannot change as a buyer, as us, for example, a developer. We cannot influence the price too much. We can put in some procurement strategy. We can hedge some materials. We can work some contracts with our suppliers itself, more long-term contracts. But in general, I think it's also understanding between the customer, ourselves, and the supplier. We try not to take advantage of this situation. And hopefully the customers understand that as well.
My question is to Mr. Sanoj. You've executed quite a lot of projects in the past year, and there has been a lot of changes in the prices of the entire BOS items, even the modules. So how have you managed, and how does the total working of the entire system cost work out for the company?
Well, I think that's getting too much into the internal economics and the dynamics within the organization. So probably not. There's not something I would be willing to discuss in the public forum. That's where I would state on this. Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. So, before I think there is one certain thing that we wanted, to place before the panels. There was a certain development of a tracker system for rooftop that was, executed some 2 or 3 years back, right? Do you think that there would be trackers on the rooftop in foreseeable time in future? The question is for the entire panel.
Well, I'm not a big fan of tracker, to be honest. Not even for ground mount. I have worked on about a gigawatt plus projects across multiple countries. So, though I also did tracker projects, I didn't really find that. I'm not so excited about the changes. It's the reason being that what you see on paper is not what you see in the field. So rooftop, especially in Southeast Asia with the roofs, even where putting the fixed till structures is a challenge. Putting a tracker is, I would think, is not going to happen. At least that's my
Right.
view. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not.
No,
Not
absolutely. I am on the same level with you regarding the technology for trackers for rooftop. It is going to take some time. It is going to change, a lot of dynamics for that to be possible. Probably a change in the entire, model system should not be framed or wafer or any other type of thing. Um for the other people, do you have any, inputs on the trackers being utilized in rooftop for future or current?
In contrast to Sanoj, I love trackers. It's an arm length extension for investors. So it makes perfect sense. economically, and it does not add any, or rather, it does not really affect the OPEX performance of the plant. So it's perfect. Now, the only question is, and I have to agree with him that very seldom the marketing materials translate into real life. That's for sure. Most of the trucker companies are putting numbers from the sky that are absolutely unreasonable. This is now being adopted by bifacial panels as well. We see the same trend, extremely overpromised numbers. However, even if the real life benefits are much smaller than what promises are, they are still economically viable. They are still translating into higher profits slash lower LCOE. Now, the question is trackers on rooftops. Yes, definitely. Not so much on retrofit rooftops. So we're going to look at new technologies for new buildings. Uh, I was uh, I was very enthusiastic about Elon Musk's solar Theos. Unfortunately, he's not the right guy to do this, but someone less superstar, someone more into actual doing than talking, will be able to put this forward. That's still to come. We are still looking. We still, as of today, we still don't have a reliable technology that replaces standard tails, and that will definitely come. 100% so.
But Mr. Milan, let's say even if for the new roof, right, the load with the tracker on the rooftop is
Correct.
pretty very high,
Yes, so
right?
it's very high. It's very high. Then it remains to be seen whether it can be optimized. But sometimes I say this and people think that I am joking. But in fact, I think that I don't know when exactly, but in a few years from now, we're going to have uh, huge floating systems with trackers and batteries. Uh, you know, it's and it's probably going to be solar panels with microinverters.
So that
Uh,
is something which is possible. For floating trackers can be possible, but we're
Everything is
talking about
possible. The
rooftop.
message, my message is everything is possible. It's not up to you or me to decide what is possible and what is not. It's the
Absolutely.
market. The market will dictate. The entire development of this industry is customer centric. We follow what energy customers need, and that's how the entire value chain develops. So what customers need right now is consistent energy at low cost, and batteries are on the peak of the agenda right now.
Mhm.
But optimizing the performance of the plants is also a secondary priority, and trackers is where this comes in place.
Right, but when we talk about trackers on the rooftop, we not only have the load issues, we also have every single roof is a different new design, and for a system to be cost working, it has to be a certain scalability to the model. Every single time you visit a roof, you say 4 modules on a rack, or let's say 15 modules on a rack. That is not something which is workable for a manufacturer, or for a team, right? So
No,
that is
these
the
are the trackers.
fundamental
These are
question.
the trackers that you have in mind as of today. These are not the trackers from the future. And I'll just give you one example. When I
Yes.
joined the industry, the biggest operational solar power plant was 5 megawatt. Okay.
Oh,
So back then, people were telling me that essentially that's already too big because otherwise the load to the grid is translating into significant losses. So the message back then was that we're almost reaching the maximum of the size of a single solar power plant. Now we have uh, tens or hundreds of gigawatt projects under operation or under development. Uh, and things will not stop here.
Absolutely, I like
So,
your
so
enthusiasm and positivity on
the
this.
trackers of today are probably nowhere near where they will be in 10 years from now or even 5 years from now.
Absolutely, absolutely, Mr. Milan. I thoroughly, you know, appreciate your enthusiasm on the upcoming technologies, and hopefully somebody with a passionate mind would come up with something which we have not thought of, right? And that is it for today, guys. I will summarize everything that we've gone through. Regarding the structures, there are multiple types of structures. There are certain supply chains that are being problems that are being faced by everybody when it comes to shortage of the material supplies in terms of CNI projects, but that are being dealt on the mutual understanding between the vendors. There is still a gap in between standardizing the means of working out where the shortages can be worked out. The cost of smaller parts of supplies are currently expensive because of the global supply chain issue that has uh, reduced, but it has not exactly come down as per the old standards, and it will continue for some more time. Things will look forward to be brighter for everybody, because everybody is looking forward to uh, you know looking forward to getting things done on a cost basis and understand the issues of the rooftop market. Thirdly, I would also want to say that we discussed on the points of reducing solutions at a high wind scale market, wherein we can compromise on the generation problem, but we can reduce on the structure tilts and everything and other points in order to have a stable structures. Regarding the trackers, we are still a long way ahead, but we have a few people in the industry that are very positive towards the development of a technology, right? And which is the mindset that everybody needs at this point in time. And yes, so that is it for today, guys. Any questions? We will move on to the question and answer round.
Yes,
Priyanshi, would
so I'll display the questions on the screen.
right. What type of warranties and number of years expecting by CNI developers? This is by Mr. Shekhar Reddy. Anybody would want to answer this?
Well, the expectation is always a sky. And I would say for the entire duration of the PPA, which is typically 25 years.
Right. Can we move on to the next question, Ms. Priyanshi?
Sure.
We have the question from Mr. Arun Jalan. Recommended adhesive. What is the expected life of the adhesive in Southeast Asia?
So this, I think the question is for me. Adhesive, I think there are several reputable companies that we could look into. Hilti, Dow Corning, Parker, Sika. There are quite a few adhesive companies. I think more importantly is do the due diligence, understand the uh, environmental elements that are in play in the installation area, and do the required lab test. I have seen some data that shows that the tensile strength, the adhesive strength did not change after a simulated 20-year period. So I think there must be good development in this chemical industry for adhesives. So that is my answer.
Right. And just to add to the thing, the adhesive systems are currently that are there. Are there are different brands that are providing, and if the brands could work out on the execution part, this will be something which is going to be taken up rapidly by all CNI companies developing the projects. Let's move on to the next question.
Yeah, this is the last one.
What are the timelines expecting for deliveries, the structures for CNI projects. So what is the general timeline that is expected for CNI projects structure deliveries?
Typically for CNI projects, 1 megawatt, we expect to finish our megawatt project in 3 months. And so if the delivery of the mounting structure, which is the most critical element to start the work on the roof, is taking too long, it will jeopardize our timeline. So in general, I think we expect typically from our suppliers, upon confirmation of design, mounting structure should be ready out of the factory within 3 to 4 weeks. And then with 3 to 4 more weeks of transit time, quality control, on-site checks, and so on. That is typical expectation of a mounting structure delivery timeline.
Right, right, right. So yes, I think that's all for today.
Yeah.
Thank you for meeting us in the webinar. I hope we have added to your existing understanding of the mounting systems and the Southeast Asian market. Thank you, Mr. Milan. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Thank you, Mr. Sanoj. And thank you, Mr. Allen, for joining us and providing your wonderful feedback on your experiences in the rooftop CNI space.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Solar Quarter, for having us and organizing the entire, discussion.
Thank you so much, Harsha sir. You did an excellent job. And again, I can't tell you how much you have contributed to the success of this session. And I appreciate your willingness to do it. Thank you so much, all our esteemed panelists, for extending their time and support for this event. So we have come to an end to this virtual conference. Till then, bye from our end. And now the floor is open for networking. We promise to come back with more exciting and knowledge-driven webinars and conferences. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.